Hey, what up, noobs? What up, noobs? Hey, Nedog. Nedog G. What's up? Net OG. We got Mr. Slowhand. Wow. Mr. Slowhand donated $45. $45. What's wrong with my internet? $45 donation from Mr. Slow. Jury returns to deliberations in Trump trial. $45 from Mr. Slow. We got 1,050. So we're up to 1,050. It's not the easiest color scheme to read there for the blind. Okay, Mr. Slow. Mr. Velimirovich. Mr. Sloth. I put in a game here. Oh, nothing went through. Oh, no. Mr. Sloth. I called you Mr. Sloth. Thank you for the donation. Massive donation from Mr. Slow. $45. Guys, we got 1 month. 30 days to go. 1 month to go. To Krakow. USA 2. USA 2. So Mr. Slow game, let me see. I'm going to have to grab that again. Mr. Slow. And there he is. To grab the game again. Did you submit a game? Or did you... Mr. Slow's not in the recent chat list. So I think you... I was doing Velimirovich games, but now I'm confused where we were. Conradi. We did Conradi last time, right? So Haman. Hamanoria. Haman Rai. What can I do? I copy this. Copy with black. Hello, what are you doing there? No, I don't want. I want the beginning of the game. Haman, copy. Damn, I thought I did. I thought I copied this already. Copy PGN. Chapter PGN. All right, there it is. The handle is invalid. What are you freaking talking about? That's the wrong game. Bro, don't save. That's completely... Alright, let's see if I get rid of some of this crap. Don't save. I'm just gonna get rid of crap. Don't save. Save. Let me try this again. There it is. Alright, now it looks good. What do you mean the handle is invalid? Copy. Alright, we are good now. Study. Welcome everybody to analysis stream. Sorry. Study my studies. Analysis stream Thursday. We got 3 hours. I have to leave around 9:30. Conradi Vilmos. Am I gonna keep doing this for real? Really, I'm retarded. My studies, Sparkle Horse, add a new chapter, paste. Alright, there. And we put it first. The $45 donation automatically bumps you up to first. Unless for some reason you don't want to be first. Then we've got games from Prism. I've got a special day today. I don't know how this is going to go over, but we have Prism, Sack, Draw, Acerbate, and then another Acerbate game. Acerbate is going to like freak out. Hi guys, today if you have time you might want to have a look at the Parg Carlsen game. It was incredible. Parg. Parkson. Parg. I feel like something's missing. Oh, we've got Nedog. Sun Prism, Sack Draw, Nedog. I feel like I'm missing someone. Ubatis, no. Acerbate, yes. Sack Draw. Move 11, no. Discombobulator, no. But I still feel like somebody I forgot. What about Schumacher? Did he send me anything lately? He's online. Are you out there? Schumacher may be playing. I'm going to troll him while he's playing. He's playing Bullet right now against the 2293. Very serious chess there. No, he hasn't submitted a game in a long time. Very disappointed. Antonio. Broadcast. Can I get a PGN? If you want to submit a game, you want me to do live streaming analysis? That's going to cost extra. I'm going to need to see like Hans' lawyer, Magnus's lawyers, and work out some kind of deal. Or lichess at least. Do I look like Irene Kundalkar? Alright, seriously, let's get started. Now maybe I'll consider looking at a completed game. Or, for extra donation money, I might analyze a live game. Mr. So has tipped $45 and is first. Alright, back to study. Here we are. So, yeah, I've been enjoying these Belmirovich games. I like the Rouser games too. Richter Rouser. No, I like the Richter games. That's automatic. I like the Richter games as well, Mr. Slow. Mr. Slow has good taste in games to analyze. But okay, exciting Velimirovich. The Yugoslav Grandmaster, well known for his, let's see, Sicilian, playing white, his namesake attack. Also the black side of Benoni, King's Indian, Dragon. Almost anything with the fianchetto on G7, it seems like. A lot of interesting ideas, though. He played things like the Goring Gambit. He wasn't afraid to play slightly, dangerous openings, let's say. Alright, so D4. Sven, interesting. Sven Hamann was a Danish master who later became an IM. Most of us would have, of course, guessed Swedish, but it's close. Denmark, Sweden, and Norway are all really, really, very close together. So a lot of times it's hard for even Danes and Swedes and Norwegians to tell each other apart. Anyway, so Sven, ironically, is Danish. It's different in different countries, like Sven versus Sven. Alright, D4, C5. Anyway, this move right away, whereas in the last game, yeah, I already made the ham and cheese. Joke. You didn't get that? If you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to have a look at the game against Sack Draw from last Tuesday. Oh, alright, hold on. Double entry. Sack Draw from last Tuesday. Alright. Yeah, we have an extra space. I don't want to do 10 tonight because I have to leave at 9:30. So we have more than 2.5 hours. I think we're going to call it at 7 or 8 games today. But that's fine. We got space. Learn double Acerbate games. All right, we got to go back to like last Tuesday. Not this Tuesday, but last Tuesday. Let's see. Sparkle Horse, Tuesday. Ponda and Horses Club. Tournament, Ponda Rapid, this Tuesday. Yeah, sometimes those things are lost in translation. Whenever I'm talking to Europeans, we get confused about last Tuesday, this Tuesday, the next Tuesday. Hungarian's worse. Okay, so Tuesday. Sex draw against Mr. Slow. That's funny, though. You didn't get paired with Misunderstood? Miss Pac-Man versus Mrs. Pac-Man. Mr. Slow versus Misunderstood. No. Mr. Slow versus Sac Draw. Alright, we'll take a look at this. This must be the game. It's a Rosalimo. Okay. Study. Where would you like to study that? No, where do you want to study that? I think high school grammar. Also Misunderstood and Sacrificial Ninja. Wait. Which one? What are you implying? That I should choose? Choose one of those? Between those guys? Or games against you? Alright, Mr. Slow against Sex Draw. Alright, we're going to do the Velimirovich game first, and you can decide. You ask Sex Draw. Oh. You mean you're the other guy? No. Lost in translation. Yeah. I don't know if Sex Draw is here yet, or will ever be. But anyways, yeah, it was lost in translation. But Sex Draw did not submit his game against you. For a second, I was like, oh, maybe he submitted his game against you. We'll do Velimirovich first, and then, you confirm which game you want to do. I just want to say that there's a difference between the Benoni and the modern Benoni. And there's a big difference because the modern Benoni, by nature, is involving an exchange of pawns on d5 early. So it's more open than some other kinds of Benonis, which tend to be oftentimes closed. Mr. Slow just went crazy, getting 5 tier 1 subs community. He can't do it alone. He can't do it alone, everybody. Help him out. Donate. Please. We got donations to Elder Balaam. Balaam. An Elder Balaam is an elder lamb that goes ba. Fogre. Iambona. Hansermemli. And Lucas. 818. We had a follow from Ioma. Mr. Slowham, my slap for those games. What? Give Mr. No. That's fine. No, I don't know. We're gonna see. We're gonna see what he wants to do. We're gonna see what he wants to do. But I can't do as many games as usual tonight. I have to leave at 9:30. So if we have 2.5 hours. 2 games are more than enough. Astrobate. Astrobate games are quick. Alright. You guys decide. Thank you, Mr. Slow. Let's get a hype train going. Only Sex Draw. Only that game's cool. That's what I thought you wanted to do. But I think we got our signals mixed. Communication on the internet is complicated. Alright. So D5. How are we going to open this up? That's the only problem here. I like the modern Benoni better for Velimirovich, because after knight f6, c4, c5, d5, e6, you're already getting like pawn exchanges and creating imbalance. There's a reason why the modern Benoni is the most popular variation of the Benoni. It's also the sharpest. This isn't exactly the same. After c5, white also doesn't have an obligation to play c4, or even d5 for that matter. I have a friend, Emil Slancy, played tons of c5 Benonis. He was a friend with Pereni, and Pereni was a famous IM who had a lot of theoretical concepts, and he died tragically 1989 or whatever, but I'm kind of thinking like Pereni had probably some influence from Velimirovich. Not directly, necessarily, say. I mean, Pereni and his Pereni cult were Hungarians, but I mean, they were neighbors to Yugoslavia. So it's not that weird, to imagine that like the Hungarian or whatever, vice versa. Let's say late 80s Hungarian masters influenced by Velimirovich, who still was very, very active. Dragon, Benoni, I don't know what you think, Mr. Slow, but I mean, I think that this is a major influence on regional chess and world chess. Afterbait just donated a tier 1 sub to Peretz Imre. And we had another. Guys, we're on the verge of a hype train. Morales with a gift sub. Can we get 200 bits? We only have 12 viewers. What? Alright, anyway. So d5. So, you don't want to play the check Benoni if you're Velimirovich. You don't want to close it up. This isn't a check Benoni anyway, but check Benoni style. Knight f6. White plays c4. First of all, there's a real good case to be made that knight c3 is white's most natural move in some sense, because you're going to play e4. Yeah, he was a huge influence, along with Ivkov for ex-Yugoslavia nations. I mean, I'm saying, like, Hungary has always been on the border of the Balkans, but I mean, they didn't play in the Balkaniads, but Hungary didn't technically count as part of the Balkan. But come on, we share a border, and the chess is, there's a lot of players playing abroad. Serbians perhaps playing in Hungary, Hungarians playing in tournaments there. So that generation, we're still, I think, seeing a lot of influence between players. Anyway, I think c3 is as good as c4. It's different, but it's not. It's really an e4 game, because you're going to play e4, not c4. It's a Schmid-Benoni, they call it. In the old days, in the Encyclopedia of Chess Openings, knight c3 was always considered to be better. It was like first line. The first lines were first in the encyclopedia, or last, whatever. First lines were last. Anyway, this is considered to be the best, speaking of Yugoslavia. And then today, if you analyze with an engine, I was always under the impression that knight c3 is necessarily better than c4. The engine doesn't really think so. It thinks they're both good. So it's like, well, yeah, they're about the same. Basically, hard to believe, but possibly true that these moves are approximately equivalent. But white played c4. So the queen pawn player is more likely to play c4. Anyway, and now Velimirovich doesn't play e6 like we saw in the previous game, which is interesting. So it also means that he has a lot of different variations he can play. Not always the same thing. Good idea. G6 is what I'm wondering is it like technically a King's Indian when we go with G6? Um, by the way, like Ivkov. Was Ivkov? I'm confused about Ivkov. Ivkov. Explain to me like whether Ivkov was Bulgarian or Yugoslav. The name is like Bulgarian, right? Okay, e4, d6, knight f3, castles, bishop e2. He's like Yugoslav for sure. What was his first name? Well, dude, there's a border there too. I mean, these things are tricky. I mean, there's probably like a Bulgarian minority in Serbia. I mean, it's not like. All right, so Borat, bishop e2. So I think I've played mostly h3 in this position with white. Hey, move 11, welcome back. And welcome, well, good luck on your trip. Move 11's going. He's going with Dogecoin to the moon. Going on a trip. H3. Bon voyage. Don't jump off your cruise ship, okay? H3. There's some guy who, like, they said he jumped off the cruise ship to his death. Like 20 decks. Off the coast of Cuba or something. I don't think that people, like, jump off the cruise ship, okay? It's another way of saying he fell off or was pushed. You don't jump, like, 20 stories off a cruise ship. Castles, bishop e2. This takes this thing out of bishop g4. And on bishop d3, it has more sting, obviously. So I've played mostly h3. Ooh, there was a Spassky-Fischer game there from 1992. Not the real Spassky-Fischer match. Speaking of Yugoslavia. They never found him, no. Did they? They didn't find him. If they didn't find him, might be a good way to, like, Are they sure he existed in the first place? Alright, bishop e2, e5. This move I'm not a fan of. This move I am not a fan of. Petrosian. Actually, move 11. Speaking of move 11. Move 11 and I analyzed Petrosian game where he also played this. And the problem here is that white isn't castled. You had a Latvian psychologist play chess with me. Back then I liked to position my bishop blocking the center development. The problem with this is white has 92. Jose Gonzalez Garcia played this against me. This is really strong. And I never played this line. I don't know why I played it, and I don't want to play it again after that game. But 92 is really good for white. There's a Tukmakov game from 1995. Dragolyubov. It sounds like one of the devils. Bulgalyubov. So bishop h6, yeah, this isn't the best situation because white isn't castled. So we're going to get, like, brutalized on the king side with h4, h5. Demon, exactly. Beetlejuice. There's a new Beetlejuice coming out that I never watched the first one. Yeah, nice suggestion, Uber driver, but that really doesn't work unless white is castled and he can't play h4, h5. So, yeah, it's a problem. I wouldn't play this after my game with Jose. Petrosian also got away with it. Black can do that. Black can do this thing, I think, after white is castled. But he should wait. Roman really liked this crap. For black, he would do like knight a6 and wait. Maybe that's the best thing to do. Objectively, you could play e6 and transpose to a modern Benoni. You could play knight a6. But I think, this e5, Feugl used to do it too. But bishop g5 is also Petrosian style. It's not the only good line. Once I castled kingside, it got absolutely crushed by Feugl. One of the first times I played him. Igor was a very strong positional player. Still around somewhere, but this is a solid approach for white. Bishop g5. Again, knight d2 is good. Bishop g5 is okay. Castles is not the best. And he had a cool mustache. He looked like a walrus. Bishop g5. And, okay. I saw some games by, Quinteros. I had blitz games. I also had blitz games on ICC with the Argentine Grandmaster Quinteros, who was a specialist in these kind of lines. And he would, put his queen on c7. This is his, weird way. Maybe on the next move, after, bishop h4. This is the Quinteros. You, put your queen on c7. See, Gligorich, Quinteros, 1973. Bukic. We saw Bukic already. It's a wonder we don't see a Velimirovich Quinteros, but they're both playing black. Bukic versus Quinteros, 1977. And then Oscar Pano. Borislav Ivkov, Oscar Pano, 1973. So everybody's stealing each other's ideas. I definitely had this against Quinteros with white. In Blitz. Numerous games where he tried to do this kind of thing, and it's confusing. It doesn't look right for black, but it's kind of tricky how to exploit this queen on c7, as stupid as it looks. I lost a game at the Marshall. I'm having deja vu. I think when I told Move 11 about it. Our hero plays exclusively queen d7. Yeah, queen d7 is another idea. So that's Velimirovich. And Deak Shandor. Queen d7. One man's queen d7 is other man's queen c7. And what Quinteros would typically do, maybe at some point play a6. But I was never sure, with white, what to do. It's just kind of annoying. So, okay, we get queen d7 instead. Now white castles. Although I don't think white should necessarily be in a hurry to castle. So, Petrosian versus Velimirovich, knight d2. Well, why is this called the Petrosian system anyway? Against the King's Indian. So knight d2, keeping the king in the center, where it has more flexibility. The choice of almost all these good players, including our own Kishpal, International Master Kishpal. Alright. And Ivan Nemeth, who's also a well-known, who was a well-known master. Adalek was talking about him. An influence for a lot of people. Nemeth, Ivan. So we got castle. Nemeth means German in Hungarian. Interestingly, I don't know if you knew that. Castles looks like a mistake. Knight h5. Obviously, stronger players don't like playing g5 in this type of structure because it makes f5 harder to play. Uber driver. Because f5 is weak. White played rook e1. And then, obviously black is thinking about f5, but you've got to watch this diagonal. So if f5, take, knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, bishop takes h5. Obviously can lead to problems. So black first plays knight f4. After the obvious bishop f1, black plays f5 now. Now, white might be fine in this position, but I wouldn't play such a variation unless I knew exactly what I'm doing. Because it's a King's Indian, and it's your king that's getting attacked in these classical King's Indian type of structures. He played 92, which is what I expected. I'm not sure what other options white has at this point. I mean, the bishop being stuck outside the punching here on g5 can be a bit of a problem. But maybe white needs to seriously... Maybe we need to have a serious discussion about taking on f5. Someone said there's a Ben Feingold rule. Maybe move 11? Any Ben Feingold fans out there? Ben Feingold fans? No. Well, anyway, one of Ben's rules is like always take on f5. Maybe this isn't such a stupid idea. I mean, particularly because we're blocking the bishop there. Black gets active pawns, fluid pawns. I will tell you guys another thing the Feugl did to me. This is very important, by the way. If there's a pawn on c5 or there's a pawn on c7 in this type of structure, this pawn on c5 is very useful because when black pushes like e4, there's no going to d4. White doesn't have access to this d4 square. So, Uber Driver pointing out ways to like possibly trap enemy pieces. Thank you. So what's the evaluation here? Plus 0.8 for white after pawn takes f5, pawn takes f5. I think it's structurally the safest thing to do. But I'm not saying it's easy to play, and Uber Driver's right, like you could get a piece trapped. But I think there's a point to Ben Feingold rule, you know. Probably lower risk way of playing in this type of structure. He plays 92. White has good control of the e4 square. And so, if you play g5, which happens in the game, the problem is, you know, we can't maintain like pawn control over e4. But I don't think, you know, it doesn't look like Velimirovich lost too much sleep over this. So, he goes ahead, plays g5, bishop g3. And now, the e4 knight, if you take on e4, this is a terrific square. But there's a nice trap here, knight takes g2. Very cute. And so now we know where Mr. Slow gets his King's Indian inspiration from. I have a plan. What do you guys think about it? Anybody like this idea? Bishop f6, bishop d8, bishop a5. If I could just get my bishop to a5, I'm ensured I can trade off that bad bishop for a knight or a rook. You know, I like the mobility. I like the mobility of that bishop. So knight takes g2, bishop takes g2, f4. And the useful thing about this is he manages to play the sack and then regain the piece without white getting access to the e4 square. So I still think that white's position is very solid, but also, you know, limited kind of in what he can do. Because those knights just kind of shut down. So wait for it. I mean, white's next move. I really... his next move, he played knight f1. This is very interesting. So, maybe not the first move I would have considered. Definitely not the first move I would have considered. It looks like white is trying to maybe do something like knight e3, knight f5, maybe force black into making a decision about taking a piece here. Black makes a non-committal a6. White makes the robotic a4 response. But do we really want to allow, you know, somebody's favorite b5? So a4. Well, yeah, I don't want to see bishop d8, bishop a5 again. But let's see what black does. And now b6. So the astromate maneuver. But now, dude, he's got to play knight e3. I mean, I can't take the tension anymore. You know, I'll do rook a2, fine. You know, I can do this too. But I seriously want to know, like, why can't we go here? Because you're going to have to make a decision. You know, you're going to let me put my knight on f5? Take one of my pieces now, you know. I want to know which one you're going to take. You're probably going to take the knight. And then I have this crappy bishop. Yeah, he would take the knight. We're left, and all we've got is a stupid t-shirt. The bishop's still pretty bad. What's the evaluation? Close. 0.0. It's an obvious 0.0. What did you think? It's an obvious 0.0 position. No, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I thought maybe even black is better. But anyway, that's what I would do. That's just me. So he doesn't want to give back a piece. He plays h3. So that's what he did, h3. He forced. Well, he thought he was forcing. F takes g. But this isn't the first time I've seen one of these Velimirovich games where black can play like a long-term piece sacrifice. So Mr. Slow is like, wait for it. The point is, like, yeah, we're expecting pawn takes with a good outpost square for a knight here. But that's making the assumption that white saves, you know, black rather takes the bishop on f4, and g3. So he doesn't. He plays queen f7, allowing white to play bishop h2. If you play bishop h2, I guess f3. And suddenly, you know, white's going to have to play bishop h1. And now, like, h3 is dropping. This pawn can roll. I mean, you know, I don't know about this. White's still better according to the engine, but I mean, it's very touch and go. You think he would play h5 rather than f3? Ah. Okay, it's possible. The white does have bishop f3 there. Rook a3. Thanks, Uber driver. A timely resource. Great idea. Great idea. Your best suggestion today. So it looks like it's still pretty unclear. Black plays queen f7, and now white plays. Yeah, this is a little bit of an artificial move. Queen f3. Not typically like. You know, the problem with that is that the queen just doesn't have a lot of squares. on. You're really asking for it with queen f3. Damn, Nedog, what did you say? Nedog, what are you doing? Yeah, exactly. h5. I mean, white can try to hang on with like knight h2. Black just ignores him. But maybe like white should open a line on the queen side now. Like before it's too late. I mean, I think this is very tricky because like take, and now this base of the pawn chain is hit, and my rook's hit, and so there's no time for like, I mean, you could play bishop a6, but wait, that's not a rook on f1. So you get my point. Like, I think that he should try a5. Thanks, Asterbait, for gifting a tier 1 sub to Skyrim fan 123321. That's also his password. You guys want to log in? Just kidding. 35 black would take. Perhaps so. But at least it would ensure that there's an open line on the queen side. So if black tries to commit all in, I admit you got a point here. Like this is pretty solid. You know, how does white attack that? The only way to really attack it looks like b4. It's a shame our bishop's on g3, you know? White really needs to play b4 somehow. But I think you're right. Like, he probably would have to... He could take, but he could also... You know, he could also play, like, rook b7. Mr. Slow. If white had, like, all the time in the world, they could get their, like, knight on a5, but it's unlikely that's going to happen. It looks slow. So now bishop h2, h5, and this queen is feeling uncomfortable. I don't think this is going to work out. Queen f3, and now knight d2, g4, and black is like, I don't care if I'm down a piece. What does it matter? Look at its quality, not quantity. Queen d1. By the way, maybe queen d3 deserves some consideration to give the queen the possibility of going back there. He plays queen d1. And now black wants to attack, but set it up correctly. So then a surprising move, queen f6. So I see. He wants to go in here. Yeah, this doesn't matter if you're up a piece when your knights can't move. Look at his pieces. This is the thing. Like, none of white's pieces can move. Look at those pieces. It's unbelievable. That's why I'm saying you need to open a line on the queen side, because this is not really helping. You know, the fact that white is up a piece just doesn't matter. a5. Amazing. No, I told you he had to do this. Queen h4. I'm afraid it's too little, too late. Black might be getting some serious threats now. Take. Rook af7. AFK. White's pieces are AFK. Do we have a threat yet? I think it's going to get ugly. And now another queen move. Yeah, that doesn't look good. But nothing looks good. Look at the power. The power here that's lined up for black. I don't think queen c2 is going to help. What's the plan? King f1, king e2, king d1, run away. Bishop h6. Uber Driver suggested that. He's taking his time. Here. That's ugly. Finally, b4 is prepared. So if white could put his king anywhere, I guess like a2 would be the best. I think he's already done. He was done a while ago. Bishop g5, queen d3. He's made a lot of queen moves. And then f3, finally, like the committal move. The committal move, which I'm going to play bishop g3, and he does. He has to hit the queen. Queen drops back. Now this is what I would say is like the point. Is there any chance of white evacuating? That's kind of why I really wanted the queen to have that square in the first place. He went queen, I don't know, 3 different squares. So now he plays knight f1. I mean, the h-file, he can triple down the h-file, right? Knight f1, he just takes. So what about queen f1? Bishop's attacking d2. Yeah. Well, that was dumb. You know, he can't play queen f1 because the knight's not protected, so he has to put the knight there. Now he takes, and he's getting, like, mated. Take, king here. And then, of course, rook f7 looks good, but he can block it. So this is the last point that white needs, well, really both sides need to realize. There's a shot now. Rook takes f2. Oh, that queen! Oof. So there's mate on g2. And if you play bishop takes f2, you lose your queen. And that's not good, obviously. Yeah, no, impressive. Impressive. He handcuffed him completely. Alright. What are we going to do now? We got 11 viewers. I think that's our highest viewer count ever. Yeah, these people don't want to learn. They don't want to learn chess, like, seriously. If I post analysis of games stream, only the most hardcore dedicated players are watching. But I don't care. I'm not here to make money. Prism Black. Alright, so this was Sun Prism. We can do Mr. Slow whenever, you know. But I figured we'll break it up a little bit. We'll do a Sun Prism game. He's been on the stream a lot. He plays too fast. He's from the UK. The Queen e7 line looks interesting. I mean, I'm sure that it has its problems, but the move order in the opening is important. I mean, I learned the hard way, like, you shouldn't castle too early there. So black is facing the English, King's Indian style setup. Now, I had a couple games of Sun Prism already, where I played the same line. Astrobate gifting a tier 1 sub to Regress. Perfect for you. Regress. It's Hungarian with an SC. So Sun Prism may be trying to play the Grunfeld. A Fianchetto Grunfeld is starting with d5. Now the only way to prevent a Fianchetto Grunfeld is e4, and it's a Bafnik, a kind of Bafnik English setup for white, and it's fine. It's something special, it's fine. But what I was wondering about, and I had this discussion with Tobias a long time ago, Gibatis, who's not here. Black can try to sack. What I've always wondered is, like, should black try to sack a pawn here? If you really want to be aggressive, you can try d5. I don't know how sound this is, though, objectively. What was interesting was Mikalik, I guess, who's a decent player. Well, let's see, both guys, maybe. No, one guy took. Papin took with the pawn on d5, and then the other guy, Mikalik, played positionally with e5. But anyway, just a suggestion for Sun Prism. If you want to try something different, I don't think this pawn sack is that simple, and it might throw off some of these Botanic English players who are less flexible. It's worth a try anyway. Twy. He plays e5, and then the other move that I would normally play is d6. Okay, another setup I like for black, which I played before, is d3, and an early a6, a very early a6, as early as possible, a6 b5. So what we're going to try to do is, I had this one guy 25 years ago play, who let me get like a quick attack on this diagonal. But I think that's an interesting line as well. Maybe white should play a4, and that's what a lot of people do. But should white play a4, then you play a5 and you fix the queen side. It's a standard sort of happening, but white maybe doesn't necessarily want to have this like a4 and a5 and fix these squares here. It's not so easy. Alright, anyway, that's another idea. So white plays 92, d6, d3, castle, castle. Now you played a5. And now again, we need to talk to like a King's Indian expert. I had this lesson, a couple lessons with Dvoretsky years ago. I talk about it sometimes, because one of the things we worked on was the King's Indian, playing against the King's Indian attack. And Mark was of the opinion that, like, in general, you shouldn't play on the opponent's stronger side. So in the vacuum, like, King's Indian attack players shouldn't be just playing a4 or a5, like, whenever. But this position isn't so clear. It's not like white's playing on the king side and black's playing on the queen side. It's not black's playing on the king side. Both sides are kind of playing on the king side here. Both sides have ideas to play f4, f5. I think a5 is an interesting move. On the downside, it doesn't contribute to black's development, and it's also not that flexible. So typically, you see the a6 more commonly, which threatens to play b5. Again, you want to play a6, get white to induce a4, and then play a5. That's normally the plan. If a6, white shouldn't play a4. The best players don't play a4. You might get a b4, or you might get, like, white just ignores you. Thanks, Sun Prism, for subscribing. 7 months of learning chess. But anyways, you played a5 and white played f4, and that's how that guy lost to me too at the Boylston Chess Club 25 to 30 years ago. There was a queen b6 check, but you've always got to be careful with these queen b6 check things, because if we go queen b6 check and he plays king h1, we have the obvious knight g4, but it doesn't necessarily win material, because, well, first of all, knight a4. You never know about knight a4, but he has queen e1. And I think this is what happened at the game in the chess club 30 years ago. I still had a huge advantage with black. I didn't play a5, but I think I had played a6 instead. My opponent did the same thing where he played f4 too early, and now you're threatening this. But there are some tricks here. So if I just go in, there's queen f2. My queen is not protected on b6. So if your pawn was on a7, you'd be golden here. But you don't have that. So how do we protect the knight at d4? Sad. I'm sad. I can't protect my knight the knight on e3. Are we losing a piece? So this is the kind of dynamic you got to see in advance. If this doesn't work, then what do you got? Maybe you have a move to just like protect your queen. And now you're still threatening knight e3, but white can defend it with maybe knight d1, or maybe white can play h3, let you in there, and then take it or something. But that's bad. You know, he doesn't want to do this. There's no dark square bishop. Anyways, yeah, this is a bad move. Bishop g4 is almost always bad. Usually we're talking about double king pawn openings, but this is your white square bishop. This is a bluff. This is tactical nuclear weapons. There was an article today. Yeah, I think it's time to stop, being afraid and start calling some bluffs. Bishop g4. You don't want to give up your light square bishop necessarily. It's a good piece. It's your better bishop. So, and h3 is a constructive move for white. On the other hand, maybe now that you've played bishop g4, this is the right decision. I don't know. Otherwise, you just wasted a shitload of time helping this guy improve his kingside with h3. But now the question is, and I'm not sure, I think I would prefer to take with the queen. Obviously, there's this type of stuff, but it depends. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have pieces that can all function on the dark squares, right? The two knights and the bishop, and you've got a power play potentially on the dark squares. But on the other hand, white has a light square bishop that's unopposed. The question is, can the light square bishop play? Or will the white square bishop just be a bad piece? And can you beat him on the dark squares, or is he gonna somehow get some play on the white squares? That's the dynamic. Bobby Fischer Kiris, bad bishop. Bishop e3, and now knight h5. A natural move, but what does it do? Open up the diagonal, but you're not threatening anything other than pawn takes pawn. Queen d2. Why not queen d2? Let's just say queen d2 is okay. Everything's protected. And if pawn takes pawn, I don't know, maybe try a4. We had a game like this against Sun Prism where I overextended myself a little bit with white. But he played instead f5, which is interesting. So the pawn sandwich on the king side is possible. I think you need to be prepared to sack a pawn, first of all, rather than getting sandwiched. So right now, yeah, it's a good time to start thinking about sacking that pawn. You play queen e7, it looks reasonable. If white plays g4, knight f4, pawn f4, bishop takes f4, you have bishop takes b2. And it's still not so bad. You can't be retreating back. But I don't know where your queen belongs. Another interesting move might be like bishop f6. I don't know, I'm a little bit worried about actually h4 for white and g4. Oh wait, this is my game. Duh. Now you play g takes f5. Never play g takes f5. When this guy really... I mean, this bishop and the light squares is what he's hoping for. So when you go g takes f5, you're losing control of f5. And you're opening up, possibly opening up the white squares from on this diagonal. The white squares are the magic. A magic chance for white here. The computer doesn't like this move for some tactical reason. He can obviously take with the rook too. So the engine thinks this is even better. I think a natural move, he plays pawn takes pawn. Now bishop f6, this knight is not good. And maybe white tried too hard. The temptation to play g4 was very great. I think you need to consider, you still need to consider sacking a pawn. To be honest. Maybe sacking a pawn is better than having a knight on g7. You got to have a very serious conversation with yourself about this. Is it better to be here, or is it better to just like give him a pawn and live with it? You know, I'd rather be like down a pawn with a good knight versus bad bishop than have a knight on g7. So I hope this game isn't too long. Knight g7. I don't want to suffer. This is looking not good. Looking not good. You're going to attack with h5. Well, it's fine, but your knight is messed up. You know, like that knight is staying on g7. And because the knight is staying on g7, it's getting in the way of everything else. Attacking with h5 is fine if you can unravel the rest of your pieces. But in order for it to work, you need to be able to bishop g5, you know, knight f6, I don't know, f6, king f7, rook h8, etc. You need to get everything, like, you know, out on the dark squares. So you start the process. Bishop g5. There's always tricks. Got to watch out for f6. Takes. Maybe not ideal for white. And then queen e2. So the e4 knight looks really nasty. We want to deal with that. Probably knight c5. This may be better. Okay. This keeps f6 blockade. White plays a3. Like, he has all the time in the world here. a3, you know. a3 is a little luxurious. Plus, you can play a4. I mean, you could just simply play this and be like, okay. And even maybe rook a5. A3 is not a good move. I mean, he needs to be realistic about the position. It's possible, like, he's not even better at this point already. And I would start thinking about, like, defending. a3, king h8. Now you're talking. Now you've got knight h5, right? That's sick. Do you have it right away? No. Knight h5, knight h5. You don't have it yet. So c5. Oh my god. a3 followed by c5. That's weird. Why not just play c5 directly? If you can play c5, maybe you should do it right away. But it's kind of random. Okay, a3, king h8, c5, undermining e5. And now you played h5. h5, totally craziness. But it makes sense, h5. A lot of sense. If you play h5, you won't be able to play h4. I don't know that your king is really happy if the h-file opens here, though. So cd6, hg4, and then, yeah, this is really weird. He plays h4, but okay, it's also hard for him to get to the h-file. So if he recaptures, it's all fun and games. You're going to pick off g4. I'm not really sure what's going on. You know, I don't really want to trade queens for you. You should really be with the queens on the board. So you got to look at moves like this. Your knight on g7 is killing me. You know, it's killing me. Yeah, I guess you should take, probably. but this is really random. He plays h4. Okay, his trap is, it's a trap. His plan is to play king f2 and rook h1. It's pretty, like, transparent. So if you know that, you can decline to take it, A, or you can take it and see you've got knight h5 as well. So you take it. Oh my god, he didn't play king f2. Well, maybe it's just bad, right? If he plays king f2, yeah, I mean, this is the point. If he plays king f2, you have knight h5. And now you would have to play queen h6, threatening this. But at the very least, you can trade everything and you're fine. So he plays instead queen e3, like preemptively, which is interesting. Now you could play king h7, it looks like, theoretically at least. This looks like a Bogo Indian I lost in March, or I thought I was better and suddenly I was lost. You better be careful. You played king g8, and then this, which looks okay. Knight g5 here, knight g5, okay. And the game's pretty random. I still don't know what's going on. Maybe f6. What's happening? Well, f6 apparently fails. To g3, threatening mate in 1. So that's the point. He has to find perfect moves to defend himself now. g3 is suddenly very strong, and then it is. And so rook g2 and knight f4, double question mark, dropping a pawn, a key pawn with check. So what's the move? You obviously weren't thrilled with king h7. And at the same time, you probably want to get your... You know, he might be threatening bishop f3. So I guess, you know, it's tempting to do king g7 and try to hide your king on f6. Which reminds me of another game I played back in the World Senior. I'm doing this kind of stuff a lot. But again, if bishop f3... Right. You want to play f6? That was the other idea. Yeah, f6. No, f6 makes sense. Yoda. f6 if bishop f3. Okay, king f7. No, this is reasonable. So one of these options, obviously, knight f4 is ridiculous. And you drop the pawn with check. And then the brilliant king f2. Your opponent spotted all in the zone, threatening mate with rook h1. Okay, advance the h-pawn with you at your risk. I had the game in the World Senior. I was virtually winning, and I almost blew it and almost lost. I ended up drawing. Then the one in the Bogo in March, where I was totally winning and lost. You know, so I understand, like, you know, positions like where your king is open and you maybe are better, but you were very, very, very badly placed once you took on f5. Pressure! Alright. Yeah, that was a very back and forth game. This is my game from OTB. New account. New account 132. Is that the new subscriber that was gift subbed? Or is that someone else? I don't think we're going to add any more chapters. That's it, man. I'm out of here, whatever. I'm out of here at 9:30. We have an hour and a half. We're just going to call it chapter 7. I mean, I'm telling you, I've had some similar positions where I opened my king up and I regretted it. You know, you got to play very carefully with exposed king, obviously. Prometheus. Good game. So Mr. Slowhand. Anyway, there's a lot of ideas there. Mr. Slowhand is playing white against Sack draw. Whoa. What did I do? A D? Oh, I'm typing in comments. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know. Jesus, where is that going? What is that up there? What did I create? Like a note? I pressed the D key, and now all kinds of crazy shit is breaking loose. Alright, I got FF up there. What did I just make? A note in the game? FF? Did I do that? Is that for real? Yeah, that's weird. So D is a command to like get the dialog box or something. Chess Riddler. We'll see. I'm not making any promises about the game. I gotta go at 9:30. If we get there, we'll get there. Analysis board here. The earlier the better. If people submit games. Tonight I gotta leave a little earlier than usual. All right. We'll do next sack draw game. Early and often. Nice new drama. Okay. Anyway, Mr. Slow versus sack draw. Should I drink the coffee with two hands, by the way? I mean the water. I can drink water with two hands too. And a coffee mug if you like. I do the one hand like bottle drink. Alright, Mr. Slow playing white. It's a Ragozin or a Ruslimo. Your other Ragozin. E6. I played. Yeah. Today I almost played E6 in a game, and then I was like, no, I don't want to play it, and I played a different move. Shall remain nameless, but all right. Castle. I had white in a Ruslimo today too. Here, and now I'm always like, well, usually rook E1, but you can also play C3. How do you feel about this, Mr. Slow? I mean, if he's going to go to the trouble of playing this, I mean, I play it like it's Nimzo, where I'm playing the black side of the Rubinstein Nimzo. It's a modern idea to come back with bishop f8. So you instead played c3. It's more of a Kopek system where your bishop can retreat back to like c2, I guess. I was never really like... I dealt with Kopek. He was alright. He was kind of obnoxious, but we did some commentary together sometimes. He was always nice to me, but he could be like kind of arrogant. But I never liked his opening, his Kopek system or whatever. I always feel like I'm playing the Kopek system when I do like bishop d3 or bishop a4 or whatever. I feel dirty. Like it's a cheap opening or something. So I usually gravitate toward rook e1, bishop f1. But Mr. Slow knows more about the Ruslimo than I do, probably. Black now plays d5, and that's like mildly surprising, right? You think he played knight e7 so he could recapture with the knight here. You're expecting black to like kick the bishop. And I think that's like the main line, like to kick the bishop and then play for like b5, maybe. I've never played this with black. I mean, there theoretically could be like g6 too. But this is interesting. So d5. Black's king is in the center of the board at e8. There's still a pin, but obviously you don't really want to give up your bishop. So the question is what to do. Most common, it looks like pawn takes pawn, which makes a lot of sense, opening up the position. Yeah, this is an interesting move that reminds me of the Grand Prix attack. And a lot of people might, oh my god, my pawn structure. But remember, if white does that, the problem is, yes, black has a horrible pawn structure, but white has played c3 and has like tons of weaknesses on the white squares all over the place. So this is a bit strange, for white to do that. Notice c4. Played by some good players. Anyway, Mr. Slow doesn't do that. He plays d3, quiet move. Just keeping the center. So what is this? Now, yeah, it looks like we're playing the Bogo Indian. Or something like that, with reverse colors. Fair Jula. Hungarian Arbiter. Yeah, now I definitely expect a6 from Sexac draw. a6, b5, speaking of full effect. Bishop c2. Interesting, there's a game there with pawn takes pawn. But bishop c2. Alright. But anyway, your opponent here, Sexac draw, and this is the tournament on Tuesday, so it's game 15. Black has 7.5, white 15. This move is bad. You know, it's a bad move. Like, black is trading off his strong point on d5 for no reason. It's a mistake. So, pawn takes pawn, and now black trades queens. But there's more to chess than open files and trading queens and stuff like that. White has a very powerful pawn on e4. I think that's the most important factor here. Secondly, the file, that's temporary, and maybe not a huge deal. But I just want to emphasize how much of a serious, I think, strategic mistake taking on e4 is. Now black plays a6. Now, again, I don't really want to give up my bishop, especially in a case where this guy has redundant knights. There's no way that taking on c6 is right. But I'm not sure where you should put your bishop. I mean, like, all options are on the table, as they say. I mean, f1 isn't exactly screaming. You could play bishop e2. I would say you could put your bishop anywhere, really. Even a4, inducing b5. That's what you did. I don't say it's right. It might be nice to play like bishop e2, stay central, and hope, that maybe you get a chance to restrict him with a4, or even attack him with a4, like a b5, a4. You gotta watch this square. But the white squares could get real juicy, like there. I don't like those white squares for black. And the bottom line is that his king is in the middle of the board. His development is nowhere near completed, Anyway, okay. So you induce him to extend himself. He voluntarily does it. Now there's a game. This guy is a GM. Bishop a4, bishop c2, bishop b7. I don't think he was a GM yet in 99, but maybe close. a4. a4 was played in the game immediately by Zaya. And I like it. It looks active. Bishop e3 isn't bad, for sure. Black has to defend the pawn. So knight g6 is most logical. Knight c8 is passive. And now a4. You're threatening to open things up while black is behind in development. Bishop e7. Take. And now knight a3. And that is a serious problem. And I don't know if black can really protect that properly. You can try knight a7. I mean, that obviously looks very, very, very bad. If knight a7, b4, pawn takes pawn, but maybe this works out. Ironically, black is okay. So I don't know exactly how we crack his position after knight a7, as strange as that move looks. Maybe the problems for black are greater, though. I guess his next move is like bishop c6, probably, so he can castle without allowing your rook to enter the position with rook d7. You assume Mr. Slow is stronger than 1900. You assume correctly. He has a very good score against me in the simuls, and he's definitely definitely stronger than 1900. He has a low rating. But, you know, he's not a blitz player, and he's not that consistent. And he's getting old, like me. Alright, we're all getting younger. But black plays b4 instead. Maybe better, maybe worse than knight a7, but certainly not as passive feeling. Knight c4. Yeah, here, I mean, you have knight b5. Maybe b4 is simply better, you know. Knight a7 is very awkward. So how much better is white here? Yeah, it seems better to play b4. Castles. And so, at the end of the day, white it doesn't have that much, but this is a nice move. I mean, you're threatening h4, h5. Could it backfire? Yes. But black plays passively. I guess he finds nothing better, you know. So rook d8. Rook d8. Now what do I do? Got to take with the knight. And that's awkward. But still, we're hanging on. You know, what about this position? The really big problem piece is that knight on g6, isn't it? It does nothing. You know, it just literally does nothing. And I'm not sure it will ever do anything. So, okay, this was not what I expected, but I was looking at here, and obviously black can exchange pawns at some point. Let's say bishop c6. Yeah, that's a good move. And you can even defend with knight b7, maybe. I think it's probably a draw at this point, even though white's a little better. So we take b3. Don't know if you needed to play that. I'm starting to think like both sides are playing for a draw now. Nope. This is definitely a winning attempt. h4, h5. Well, I don't think Mr. Slow is playing for a draw, but I think he is playing like safely, you know. I think that black is happy with the draw. Knight d4 versus the rating factor, which I think isn't that important online, obviously. And now it looks equal to me. But again, maybe the knight on g6. The knight on g6 is blocking our ability to protect h5. So now white is still not able to win the pawn on h5. The bishop needs to protect e4. We play f3, we block our ability to attack h5. So how the heck do we attack h5? Not sure. I would kind of give up at this point and say it's a draw. f4 was a spicy move, though. You could go for f5, driving the knight back. That's very committal. So you instructively like improved your position. Knight f8, a good move. Getting that to a better square. Now it's interesting to think about e5 and like knight d6 check, maybe. Probably doesn't work. This looks good. And this move is awkward. And there he's seeing bishop d3. Mr. Slow is talking about the b4 pawn because he has a time travel machine where he can see the future, what happens in the game, and then like Aliak can analyze afterwards. He knows that b pawn is going to become a weakness. I was thinking like bishop d3 right away, but perhaps your move is better because with that move we want to recapture with the king on d3 and then get in there to c4. Does black have a move? f6 should be considered because black needs to recognize there's danger here. And then e5 is just a monster. Do we have time? This is the problem. But I guess it still would have been a problem if f6. No. See, if you play f6, then bishop d3 doesn't work as well. Because I can take it, and if I take it, you take it with the knight, but the knight now blocks your king. So that's my point. White might still be winning here, but it doesn't look as easy. You know, I agree the b-pawn is still a weakness. But if you can't easily go up here as quickly, it's not quite as good. So that might be a better defense. Knight d7, bishop d3. This is the problem. Take, and bye-bye, birdie. So b4 pawn may be falling now. So let's just check with the engine about this position, like king e3. I'm curious about f6. Yeah. It's close. The computer thinks that both hold. Interesting. And it wants to take with the knight here. Wow. Really? There must be a trick. Stockfish wants to take with the knight, not the king. What is up with that? Mr. Slow must know the secret. Because I would definitely take with the king. Maybe there's a problem with knight c5 check? Oh no. Wait a second, let's check this out, okay? So, at the end of the day, your pawns over here are all on dark squares. Yeah, I saw it. I just saw it now. So check, takes, and everything looks bad. And this pawn is definitely bad. But the problem is bishop f2. And you're like, God damn it, why didn't I put my pawns on white squares on the other side? Yeah, this is key. And this is why knight d7 is actually as good as f6, but it's hard to see that in advance. You know, they may have missed it. After bishop d3, I mean, Mr. Slow is human. Because the computer would have played knight takes. I would have played king takes as well. And black doesn't miss knight c5 check, which is impressive. Because that move is probably his only, like, definitely saving move. And now, Mr. Slow should sink in the reality of the situation at this point. This is the point where you're like, oh, shit. Now I have to be careful not to lose. And so he went into draw mode. But it's a pity because he wanted to win. You know, I wasn't sure if you could try any way to win here. But objectively, probably not. Yeah, we need to not have the king side fixed on dark squares. So it's a draw. Sadly. That's not a draw. Sac draw went wrong. He was sac lose. Bishop b6. So, black needs to be careful. What do you guys think about maybe like king e8? I mean, I guess there's still ways to lose this position, definitely. This is a huge blunder, dropping a pawn. And now he's playing knight d3 check. And white... Is white winning? Chances are good, but I can't say it's a win. It's definitely a win. Now, maybe a draw. Not enough pawns left. Okay, anyway, that was instructive. Thanks, Mr. Slow, for sharing. Okay. Now we got back-to-back. To take a break, let's do Acerbate. Acerbate, no, this is Nedog's game. He also berserk. Yeah, he had half the time. But he was on the defensive. It's a strange thing to berserk and play a move like pawn takes e4. But okay, he didn't know the opening in advance. If you're going to berserk and you're not a specialist in endgames, I wouldn't play pawn takes pawn going into an ending with black. So Acerbate is white, Nedog is black. This is Nedog's submission. Guys, thanks for joining us tonight. We've got another hour and 20 minutes. to do some more games. Asteroid playing knight f3, Nedog playing c5, Sicilian invitation, white plays b3, and then Nedog with the g6. This is a combative, dynamic approach. I like it, it's fine. It's an English defense in reverse against the English opening. So effectively Nedog's playing the English opening, and Asteroid is playing the English defense against said opening. Very standard position. After bishop b2, knight f6, this capture is considered to be playable, but not necessarily great. Because, okay, I've played these things. First of all, I'll do it in the English defense, but when I do it in the English defense, my knight is usually like not on f3. If white's knight is not on f3, he has other maneuvers like knight e2, knight f4, controlling the d5 square. The moral of the story is that it's hard for white's knight on f3 to control the d5 square. Because it's like maximum, it takes it 4 moves to get there or whatever. So you really want to have all your stuff focusing on d5, like c4. And then black has 2 ways to play. d5 or no d5. If you try to do d5, it might be good. Or you can not do d5, just give up the d5. It's going to say screw it. I'm going to play fluidly with like sometimes like d5 later. But anyway, the position is about equal, in my opinion. But Asteroid just plays e3. Yeah, I think it's considered to be like non-critical. Better to not take on f6. e3, bishop g7, and then you go like totally. I joked with him today that his Elon Musk like implant is malfunctioning or something. Maybe play this on the white side. I don't know if we want to do that to people. Asteroid has his own game. This is your game. This is a bad move. It's a provocation of sorts, also. But it's a massive tempo. You're absolutely justified in playing d5 here. And even if you don't do it right away, you can do it later. So this move is completely not justified. Of course, no good player is going to willingly play bishop c4 in a serious game. I mean, I saw people do it in London. This guy Adolf Herzog did it against me in like a normal London type position where he just let me play d5 with tempo. And that's the same idea here, but it's bad. Castles, knight c6, and now he plays d4. And now you're tempo up. You're a tempo up if you play d5. Maybe he meant c4. I wish, Sun Prism. There's about a 8% chance that that's true. He just has a track record of doing this kind of stuff. There was a game where he did bishop b5 check recently in a similar structure where black had played like the d-pawn forward. Or how was it? The d-pawn was on d5, the c-pawn was on c7. And Asteroid went bishop b5 check, inducing c6, which is not a bad move for black at all in almost any cases. So he has a bad track record. So cd4, knight d4. Now this was the safe way to play. And I might say maybe more logical with the bishop on c4 than pawn takes. I'm not sure there's any value in the bishop on c4 here. But I guess in this structure it might be a little bit better. So knight takes d4, and then now obviously if you really want to be fluid, you can certainly play something like d6. d5 is a good move, but it's committal, and you're playing a queen pawn game, but you're a tempo up. Now bishop e2, correct. Not d3. I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't sneeze if he played bishop b5, but I'm glad to see him playing a sensible move. Bishop d7, very solid. Nadal is like, he's the Michelle Godina of like, I don't know, Harvard Square here. Mr. Solid. C4. And then, nice move. Equalizing. Acerbate equalizing with white. The tempo down. Always nice to equalize with white by move 11. Knight takes d4. That's not the ideal way to play for a win, I guess, for Nadal. Although, what do you suggest here for black? It's difficult to make a suggestion. You can take, once again. You could play maybe rook c8. So, take, and correct, bishop takes. It's possible to take with the pawn, and you're playing a hanging pawn Tartakover type of structure. I will say that the bishop on d7 doesn't look that usefully placed. Bishop takes d4. And now, well, yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, you could play bishop to c6, but pawn takes pawn. And now bishop takes c4. Correct. And now the position is equal. Black plays queen c7. But I don't know where black's queen really belongs here. I don't know. I mean, you could go to a5. You could swing it across. It's not the most principled move. This looks like a very normal move. But it's a boring position with symmetrical structure. What can you do? This could backfire. You know, and I think you're playing for cheapos with knight to g4. e5 may or may not be a good move. So now, if knight g4, knight f3. And if bishop c6, suggestions, comments, questions? The Siberian trap. Well, it's a kind of Siberian trap, but it's with the bishop. Yeah. g3, that doesn't look great, but it may be forced. So I think that I missed a chance here. It's just not in his nature. Maybe he should play g3 right away. Then white gets saddled with a somewhat inferior structure. Okay, anyway, Nadal, I think knight g4 might be the best try. You played e5. See, the problem with this is, what's the plan? I mean, you don't really benefit that much from e5. It's a nice pawn, fine, but it's also under attack. It's a liability. You know, there's nothing special we can do. What you did is, like, logical. Yeah, this is where it gets funny. So Acerbate couldn't just be normal and play bishop b2. This is where he goes off the rails, you know? Like, he has to play a crazy move. Impulsively, rook c1. Threatening bishop takes f7. That's why I didn't really want to put the queen on c7, honestly, in the first place. Because you would inevitably lose this tempo somewhere down the line. But, you know, Nedog's a little lucky here. He could have fallen in a trap. Like, this is a really nice one. Bishop c5. Queen d6, bishop c5. Queen c5, bishop takes f7, check. So, that's one good way to fall in a trap. Queen a5 looks reasonable. Then you get counterattacked by bishop c3. So where are you going to go? Queen b8, probably the safest. And the text move, which is fine. Bishop there. And Acerbate plays bishop c5. Cool idea. Rook here. And now, I think that white needs to come to their senses at some point about the game and maybe realistically make a sensible move here of some sort. He plays e4. And I guess this isn't so bad, but it's also a liability. Not the safest move. Rook d8 now, queen e2, and then I don't fully understand what happened here. So basically, it looks like Nedog actively kind of playing for tactics with b5 now. You're asking for it. Bishop h6, that's your favorite move. That's Uber Driver. Now it's better than the other example. I like it better here, Uber Driver, than in the previous example. I think I have to go back. I think you like trading pieces, don't you? Just a guess. Oh, Rook d2? Whoa, so this is getting a little carried away. Morales is getting excited. Feeling like a good sacrifice for the exchange of the exchange. Yeah, I'm not fully convinced. I think that black has drawing chances after that. Uber is a faulty robot. Queen b4 or queen e3. I mean, how do you decide? Queen b4. The most natural square for the queen. Centralizing, right, Morales? You can also go here. Queen e3, preventing. It's preventing bishop h6. But anyway, okay, it's just a fancy sack. I don't think that it's anything special. This is actually an interesting move, b5. Because he has some tactics along the d file. So if bishop d3, this is the question. When you play correspondence chess, there's like if bishop d3, you write this other. If bishop e3, then queen d7. Like, how do I protect that file? It's a very complicated position, honestly. At the end of the day, ironically, I think that white is okay. You can just retreat everything and like, oh yeah, your bishop's hanging too. Oh shit, it's a draw. Not so simple like that, but b5 was kind of, I don't know, man. b5, it's tempting fate. So queen d7. b5 second. Oh, it's up there. Second best move. Cheat detected. Nedog played b5. Cheat, you think you can just get away with playing the second best engine move? Okay. Cheat detected. This is the safest move. But you want to protect his a7 pawn. b5. And then, yeah, this gets interesting. He goes crazy with bishop d5. Why is this bad? Asterbate. Why is this move bad? That's permission slip. You didn't get permission slip to give up your bishop for a knight. That's why it's bad. Well, the $1 million question is why didn't you take? Okay, the answer to that is simple. If you take, and take, that's why he didn't take. But the real question is why you didn't play this. And again, I think we're looking at stuff like queen d7, rook c3. That feels awkward. And also, as I said before, maybe missing this, which isn't that easy to see. So instead of making a sensible move, calculating it, he plays the reckless bishop d5. Black takes with a knight. The c file stays under control. He takes back, and now Nedog gets fancy here with bishop takes d5. But the real question is, like, why didn't you take with the rook? Well, What? I don't get it. So my only problem is bishop takes a7. But if you just calculate a little, you'll see you got it, right? Takes, and then at the very least you have this. You're a clear pawn up with a crushing pin against the knight on d2. Easy. So both sides made mistakes. Bishop takes d5 gives white discoveries. Okay, maybe Nadog did calculate and he didn't see anything. Actually, I don't see anything convincing. There's no great crushing discovery. What's white best move here? I don't know. What is white's best move here? Does anybody know what the best move is for white? Queen takes b5. Could be. That's a suggestion. I think that Nadog wants to play like bishop takes g2. I think Uber Driver wants to play it too, but it doesn't work. This is on this. So maybe this is the hole. A hole in Black's calculations. Right, that's what Asterby played. Of course he played bishop f8. So what's the fanciest move you can play here? Bishop f8. Just played it for sport, you know. We played the fancy moves we can find. Queen b7, and now it's really clear pawn down, dominant bishop on d5. White's lost, but it's going to take some work. And now he committed suicide. Nadog isn't winning easily yet. It should be a grind, Mr. Slow. But Asterby played this, which is awful. You know, knight f3. Now you're a pawn down and your structure's shattered. So I don't really like knight f3. And now I guess you have to take with the queen. Objectively. It's a bad rook ending. But this with your king on the board the queen's on the board doesn't look good. Having an open king position with the queens off is one thing. But if Nadog is careful here, that white king is going to be bad. This isn't even careful, and it's still strong. See a check, play a check. And then rook c5 simply takes. Nadog is a prolific materialist. Pragmatic materialist. Queen e4 threatening mate in 2. And now rook d1. Oh, there was a cute mate somewhere, if I recall. Right, that's coming up. So Nadog gets the max credit for the last move of the game. For a tactic puzzle. This is where the Maxime Bloch CTR program comes in. Nadog finds this with 2 minutes on the clock. This is a beautiful move. Now, that's the best move I've seen in a while. That's a cute move. Like that was worth it just to see that. You know, this is what you get when you make a player do a lot of puzzle tactics and stuff. That's pretty hard to defend against. Uber Driver's like queen d3. This is way less elegant. Not even any contest. Queen d3 is like it's like get out the clubs and start hitting people. This is elegant. It involves this beautiful queen sacrifice. Come on. It's not even a contest. It's not even close. I gave you the block book. Okay, I got another one. Did I give you my block book? I got another one. Okay, guys, where are we? So Prism, so sack draw, the other guy. We didn't do that, right? Sack draw versus other guy. Got an hour left. Guys, please donate, support the stream. Bring your friends who are serious about chess. If you know anybody who would enjoy the analysis stream, remind them. So subscribe to the stream. I've got, yeah, this game. Okay, the other guy. This is a sack draw game. Let me see if I can find his comment. Hi, submitting this for Thursday. Oh, okay, there's no comment. Anyway. I don't know where it's from. Unknown. Termination unknown. Time control game 80 plus 10. Alright. Oh, so we're white. This is sack draw. I don't know that much about sack draw. Why did I have the impression sack draw played e4? I don't know. Alright. So he plays the same as King's Indian. Move 11. Pointed out this Larry Christensen's favorite opening. Knight on BD7 now. So, Lev Sakis versus Boris Spassky, 1986. I just want to say that this is a very unusual move for black. Well, no. C5 right away? Wow, Mr. Slide, I don't think you can do that. Is that a real thing? Wow, Spassky Fisher 92. It is a real thing. Right away. Right away. Okay, Duda Indich 1-0. Right away. So what's the deal here? D takes C5. Oh, that endgame game. Okay, so this was a game they had in 1992. Yeah, but now you reminded me of this. Big Bobby. Playing for a draw with black. He wanted to give, like, Spassky a chance. It kind of felt like that. I don't know. You know, like he wanted to take it easy on Spassky. Let's give Spassky an ending, you know. Maybe he won't lose. I mean, you know, I don't think that Bobby Fischer would have played this in 1972. I'm just saying. Yeah. So takes. Is there any way that black can play this like a sack? I saw a crazy idea years ago, like knight a6. Emery Tate. Oh my god. But not yet. Not yet. Not in this position. So you could castle. And on c takes, we're inventing new openings here. Look, man, I mean, play this with black and use Stockfish, and you're slaughtering Magnus Carlsen, probably. But the jury's out. I mean, I don't think this pawn sack, you know, should be enough. But I mean, there's worse things you could do. Anyway. Alright, so knight on bd7. Yeah, I mean, it's a stodgy move, but not as stodgy as e5. The thing is, like, once you play knight on bd7, normally, I don't think we're going to do c5. We're going to go for e5. So bishop e3, and he does play c5. Wow. Someone played this against me. Why is black delaying castling? So it's just really random collection of games there with black. The good news is that it's not good for black. The bad news is it's not that bad, is how I would describe it. Collection of people that played this with black: Rodriguez Villa, Elizabeth Pates, Danny Edelman against Walter Brown. Drew, impressive. He drew with black in 1987. Elizabeth played it twice. And Friedrich Olofsson played it. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, Mr. Rogers. This is something Mr. Rogers might play, yeah. So c5. Now, if you play d5, I mean, seriously, d5 needs to be considered. It's probably not a bad move. But we may transpose to Benoni positions after that. If black later puts the knight on e5 and plays e6, see, Brown played d5. I think it's a little more principled not to do that. Because what is black doing in the Marazzi here? Knight on g to e2. See, castles. I think black's hoping that white pushes. So it's probably more accurate. It's more accurate to play knight on g to e2. Black should castle. What is his problem with castling? And here's Ponomarev, Magnus Carlsen 2010. I would expect queen d2. And now we're transposing to some kind of line. But I don't really get it for black, you know, this whole thing. Knight bd7, it doesn't look that great. a6, and now rook d1 or d takes c5. So it's a line. I guess we'll have to ask Victor Bologan. He wrote a book on the King's Indian. Didn't he? Maybe not. He wrote a book on the Royal Pez. Alright. So anyway, knight on gd2, black took. And now black has what I would call a slightly inferior Marazzi. So only one game. The knight d7 Marazzi. The Marazzi's bad enough in its best form. There was this Hungarian guy I just noticed joining the moronic bloggers. Came out, I saw today, an FM. I never met the guy, Ishvanovsky. He's got a blog about destroying the Marazzi or something, you know. It's like the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. You literally have no chance of destroying the Marazzi if the opponent knows what they're doing. Why are you even playing the black side of the Marazzi if you want to destroy your opponent? You know, play a dynamic opening instead. You know, don't try to prove that you can destroy one of the most fundamental formations in chess in a YouTube video or a blog or something. Just doing things the hard way. You can't play the black side of Marazzi and expect to destroy your opponent's Marazzi. You know, that's stupid. But it sounds good. Anyway, castles. And then rook e8 isn't great, but e6. Now, this is the most dynamic structure black can adopt. The question, you know, how well can we protect d6? Or can we protect d6? You know. So I'm not sure. The other thing, I guess if you want to play b6, you have to watch, let's see, knight c6, queen c7. So that's fine. Ulf Anderson had this position with black in 1977. b6 is possible. a5 instead of a6. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a move too. It's a legal move. a5 instead of a6, but your knight is on the wrong square. I mean, it's probably equally bad. It's a different kind of bad position, Uber driver. But the knight shouldn't be on d7 in the Marazzi. So queen e2, castles, bishop e2, rook e8, castles, e6. Now white tries knight c2, but I don't know if this is best. You've got to consider developing with the rooks. Possibly some crazy thing on the queen side, like they do in the Sicilian. And also the immediate knight moves, like knight b3 or knight c2. He plays knight b3. No, he plays knight c2. Now, of course, there's a blowing up the center with d5. The nice thing about knight c2 is that it protects the bishop on e3, like a Gligorich King's Indian. I would vote for developing move first. You can probably shore up your position first better rather than play knight c2 right away. I mean, the knight on d4 is a great piece. Black can play d5. I don't know if that's sound, you know. More likely to work here. So, I mean, this is damn close to transposing to a Gligorich King's Indian. I mean, I wouldn't be, like, completely surprised if it did. Of course, we played f3. That wouldn't... Well, I guess it does happen, you know. So now... I remember seeing a game similar to this where I played knight b4, actually. Kovac Gabor. International master. If our king was on h1, it would probably be for the best. a5 here. Uber Driver's going to find it. Uber Driver just random suggestions. He just says rook takes e3 anywhere. You know, like, let's try to be a little deeper than that. Queen e7. Attacking two pieces now. Deeper. Anyway, no, I don't really like knight b4. Rook d1. Wow. So we transposed the games. Now I'd be curious to see what opening that came from. Victor Shen versus Joel Benjamin. I just want to see this for a minute. And it was same-ish as well. That was the same-ish as well. Let's check Grunberg, Bospoon. Also a same-ish. It was also a same-ish. My theory is that theoretically you could get the position from a different variation. Nope. Another. Yes. Okay. So it was Tunik against Zaitsev transposed from a Gligorich variation. So that's what I'm saying. Exactly. You're literally getting a transposition. Gligorich variation with f3 played later. Now Black plays bishop f5. Wow, he knows a lot of theory. Our opponent. Black has good results here. Maybe you were playing Joel Benjamin. And now bishop f2, bishop d3. White didn't win any of the 4 games this position occurred. Benjamin winning with black against the 2400. But could be an engine playing black, obviously. Knight f takes d4. It depends. This was played over the board. But I don't like what white did here. He went like soft passive. Black's threatening bishop takes c2. What happens if knight to d4? That's how the guy lost. So Victor Shen lost against Benjamin after bishop f5, knight d4, bishop back to d7. You know, my question would be, first of all, like, what would Joel have done if he had repeated position? Not so simple. Because this pressure here. So he played bishop f2, and then Joel just took the pawn on d5. So is there any move for white here? There is. There's knight b3. Wow. No. No, it's not so clear. It's not so clear. So it looks like it's not a solution. White shouldn't have lost, but it's only equal. So in this position, yeah, it's only equal. Black is equalized. Pretty good theoretical knowledge for this guy. Played that crappy variation, and he like transposed to a Gligorich variation and equalized. And now after this, you might be worse. Because after, well, I mean, what's happening here? Okay, b2 is hanging. That's not a problem. Your structure is not a problem. I'm concerned that white can be worse. But black just played queen e7. Damn, dude. This feels very computer-like. And now queen a5, queen c7, knight b4, knight f4. I really hope I understand what's going on here. There's a knight hanging. Jesus. Bishop takes b6, rook takes d1. What? Bishop takes d1, bishop d4, check. Bishop takes d4, queen d0. Come on. That's gotta be an engine, no? Knight f6 check, king g7, knight e8 check. King f8, bishop g7 check. They're both engines. No, just kidding. Wow, bishop c3, queen b6 check, king h1. This happens every day. Knight f6 check, king f8, knight e4. So after all the smoke clears, you've got black with a queen for a minor piece and a pawn. No, it's just a black for a queen has a... No, it's just a queen for rook and bishop. It's not enough. Wow. I don't know, man. I mean, that game looks really unbelievable. Anyway, I don't know what conclusion to make. Asterbate, you're up next. White was facing a very strong opponent there. Could have been a computer. Too hard to say. I don't know if that game was over the board. I don't have any info about it, you know? At some point, it looked like white had enough compensation for the queen, but maybe it was just optical, you know? Maybe black was winning all the way. But I'd like to know more about the game itself. Sack draw. So Asterbate is black. All right, guys, we're wrapping it up in a couple games here. I've got Asterbate, Chapter 7, and Chess Riddler. Nice to see you, Chapter 7. It wasn't two computers. Sack draw is definitely not a computer. No, I mean, you could see white's play was a little hesitant at one point. So Asterbate, this is interesting. We see Asterbate playing bishop c4, knight c6, and then on d3, really non-dangerous move. You didn't go for your standard g6. You went with e6, adopting a new kind of formation. Knight c3, a6, and then a3, making way for the bishop to retreat. So basically, Asterbate is playing against an opponent who's playing closed Sicilian against the English, essentially, or making it a closed English with reverse colors. So all the opponents here playing black chose to play knight f6 in this position, which is surprising. You've got Afek, Slava Admiral. That guy is some Dutch player. 5 master players, all of whom played knight f6, but I don't think that's a no-brainer, you know? I mean, clearly b5 is perfectly reasonable for black. You got a good St. George. Bishop a2, and now we're going off the radar. Got a blip on the radar screen here, coordinate b4. It's a bogey. What do you want to do about it? Not a smooth move, really. So you should be developing at this point. Your choices are bishop b7, knight f6, possibly even knight e7. This move doesn't look right. He takes toward the center. If you take with the pawn, you lose like central pawn control here. If you take with the knight, you have a bad structure. Either way, it's good for white. But he instead plays knight a4. Knight on the rim is grim. I was telling you guys, I want to make like a photo meme of like a knight sitting on the toilet rim. Alright. Knight on the rim of the toilet. Knight a4. Well, if you take on a3, he takes back. Queen a5 check. Still doesn't win a piece because of c3. You can't win that knight. Can't win the knight. So Asterbate just randomly played knight d4 now. To be fair to him, he's new to this type of setup. So he's been playing g6 all along with black. He's not really used to playing e6 type Sicilians. But this... maybe this would be simplest. Take some kind of sensible developing move. I'm just trying to think if there's a way that white could lose a piece here. There's always a way, right? Not so easy, though, for white to lose that knight on a4. There's also, you know, the occasional player might venture something weird like b3, but I don't think you should take on a3, ultimately. You might let his knight back in the game, and it doesn't make sense to trade away from the center, really. The computer, let's see. Computer likes it, but yeah, the second variation. Yeah, it's not easy to find the right move here, or determine what the right move is. This is definitely not it, though. He plays c3, and then knight b5. Okay, dude. Try some connect 4, okay? This is not connect 4. Whatever you're doing, it's not a standard. Not a standard idea. I guess you didn't want to feel like you were retreating, and your knight is in the path of the attacking pawn. This is weird, but okay, maybe it's not that bad. Why not take toward the center? If he takes toward the center, he's building for the future, right? Future Trump City. d4. Wow. That's why we don't go b4. Or, also horrifying is, you know, the possibility of white getting into like b6. There you'd have to probably play like rook b8. But ultimately, this guy doesn't understand to capture toward the center. So he takes away from the center, forcing you to take back away from the center. And then now he takes on b4. You just capture, check, bishop d2, a5. Okay, a5 wouldn't be my first thought. Time is money. I wonder what Asterbate's thinking here. Or not thinking. Discombobulate him. Well, I mean, the most efficient thing to do is to take, and then use your time wisely to develop more pieces in some way, in some fashion. Time is important. Get out of the center with your king. That would be my bet. You know, there's also the A file here. I don't know who's zooming who. And the fact that Mr. Slow will be the first to tell you that b4 pawns tend to be targets in the enemy camp. So this pawn is going to be very possibly not with us for that much longer. It's not that easy to support it on b4. And then finally, you could consider moving your bishop away, but I don't think there's time for that. You need to be efficient here. I wouldn't hate maybe a queen move, but yeah, I mean, queen a5, I don't really like this, though. I think you should just exchange bishops. He goes back, and then you go back to d4. Can you please develop your freaking pieces? Okay, this is not so easy. He had to respond to this. Probably bishop a6. Makes some sense. But your move is a good square. It's going to be traded off. White plays knight f3. And now you went back. Forward chess, I like to call it. So I can get it. Like, you don't want to, like, help him develop his pieces. So instead of helping him develop, you undeveloped your own piece. It's like a Benjamin Franklin type of logic. Penny saved is a penny earned. But no, seriously, you don't have that many options here. Now, also to be considered is bishop c5. If knight a4, bishop a7. I don't know. Maybe it's not that stupid. So knight c6. Now you're gonna lights camera action. If d4, bishop a6. d5, roll them. He castled. Thank God you developed a piece finally. And now if e5, knight g4, I guess we go fishing. He doesn't do that. He plays the passive h3, but it's a nice idea, stopping knight g4, and now you castled. And now, if e5, Acer bot will go to his trusty e8. Isn't so bad. So white played instead d4. That looks like a reasonable move, except for the fact that e4 is not sufficiently protected. So takes, and then takes. Very good. Now white has d5. It's a good move. And the question is, does white have enough compensation for his... Every game you play, Astrobate, you're giving up a bishop for a knight. Now, the annotations in Astrobate's future collection of games will be like, it would have been safer to take with the d-pawn. But by taking with the f-pawn, we think about offensive possibilities. The problem with this is that you're a pawn up in an endgame. Well, almost an endgame. Technically, it can be considered an endgame. With the queen, if the queens were traded. It's not an endgame. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. But pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and then you've got some pressure from white here down the front lines, and also the diagonal. This is a very risky decision, but much more dynamic than taking with the d-pawn. Alright, knight h2 now. Not the first move I would think of. Does anybody want to volunteer why this guy played this? Well, he's thinking defensively. Our hero, playing white, is worried about rook takes knight, probably. At some point. You know, possibly knight takes, rook takes. So he retreats his knight back to h2? That can't be good. And then Astrobate, not content with something like knight takes d2, finds bishop a6. And that was an accident waiting to happen for white. Now clearly he has c4. Either didn't see it or completely underestimated it. Instead he plays rook e1. And now I wouldn't play this move without making sure what our follow-up is. Because knight takes f2 doesn't threaten anything really obvious. It's nice. Maybe he saw knight takes d2 and then rook takes f3. Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too. It would be a lot to ask him to see knight takes d2, knight takes d2. That's too much to calculate. But no, I had the same feeling. You know, white thinking defensively, and now panicking, missing c4, and then losing the pawn on f2. Playing c4 now, not understanding that particularly, and his queen's. You're not threatening anything here. Just knight takes queen. He's kind of threatening queen b6, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely fading fast. My first thought was that white wasn't facing any threats, but the queen is attacked. Yeah, no, queen b6 is serious. But let's say he makes, I don't know, you know, a sensible move. Queen a4, a little active. Black plays queen b6, threatening smothered mate, and then white has bishop e3. That's a problem. Not a big problem, but a minor problem. I mean, now the queen is attacked, so we have to move it again. And we're about to lose a piece. So very lucky for black that you're not losing a piece here for queen b2, it looks like. You can hang on. Queen b2, rook b1, and then only one square available there. And obviously it's a draw after rook e1. Draw. An obvious draw. Velimirovich would never take a draw here, right, Mr. Slow? This is an obvious draw, boys and girls. Queen b2, rook b1. Would Velimirovich take the draw? Would Emery take the draw? No. You have something. Wow. Queen takes c3, bishop takes f2. Wham! Oh no. Rook takes f2. How does that work, master? Oh no. It's a king walk. Rook takes f2. King f2, queen d4 check. Wow, queen d4 check doesn't work? What? It drops a queen. But you have queen c5 check. It's those little things that I miss every time. Queen d4 check. It's the right idea, the wrong square. Okay, queen c5 check. So queen b6 is no good. Queen b6 is no good? No, queen b6 is fine. Sorry, wrong queen b6. After c4, well, it depends on what white does. Like queen a4, queen b6. It looks good enough. Yeah. There's a really neat idea here as well. More Velimirovich, like knight takes h3 check, takes, and then queen g3. Somehow white's not very well coordinated here. Alright, anyway. White dropped the queen. The suspense was killing me. Here, why develop his a rook when he can move the same rook again? He's lost his balance. Check here. And then d5. d5. That's a weird move. He wants to get the bishop in there. Knight takes d5, knight g4, and then it's, wow, king h8. Defensive posturing. Watch the back rank mate, man. Always watch the back rank mate. As for giving up material, there's still a back rank mate. He did not ever make Luft. And then white blundered mate in one. Okay. So, chapter 7. That was the new viewer, right? You're banned. Submitting the London system is not allowed, but I'll make an exception. Alright. He didn't know better. London systems are not allowed. Is this a long game? How much time do we have? We have 20 minutes. I've got 20 minutes left, guys. For those of you who donated, we're up to 1,050. So we need $950 more. We're 52.5% of the way there. 30 days to go. If someone donates like $30 a day, we'll be able to go to Krakow, fully funded. Okay, we're starting on July 1st. July 2nd, actually. July 1st is travel day. So this is the new subscriber, and something weird is happening. My screen is like freezing. What's up with that? The only thing I'll say is that it always seems better to play bishop f4 when black plays d5 rather than against knight f6. And I admit to playing the London system on a couple of occasions, but I'm self-banning. It's like when I have this friend who would lose too much money in the casino, so he self-banned himself. You can sign up so you ban yourself from playing at the casino. Self-banning. I self-banned myself from the London. Bishop f4, knight f6, e3, and then e6, and now bishop d3, which is slightly unusual move order. But I guess it's okay. Now c5. c5 may move. Bishop d6, another move. This has been played by some good players, as you can see. Ban is not allowed. Something like that. I feel like I'm playing Kraken with white at this point. Bishop g3. Why play the Kraken just with black when you can play it with white too? The Cyrus Lakdawala repertoire. Kraken, Slav, London system. Play it every game. Chess never gets boring when you play the Kraken every single game. So, black played bishop takes g3. I don't think that's normal. Both sides are kind of playing a waiting game with the tension with these bishops here. Generally speaking, I think takes helps white open the h-file. So he's not supposed to do this. Takes, and now it's hard for black to castle due to pressure. If you castle bishop takes h7, game over. Right? It's game over immediately. That's what we're hoping for. I mean, maybe not game over, but it's not good. Here, f6, only move. Check, king f7, check. Black is down a clear pawn at best. So that's needless to say not a good idea. And that's why we don't play bishop takes g3. Now the opponent makes a second mistake, playing knight to c6. This blocks the c-pawn from attacking the center. I think at this point, white needs to be proactive and recognize that this move supports e5. You can play it like a Kraken if you want to, but I think it's better to be more active. Even the somewhat insane f4 at least deserves to be considered. Yes, I agree this move is probably too weakening. I would at least consider it. Because black has knight e7 looks pretty reasonable. So maybe we don't go that crazy. You know, knight f3 is a sensible move. Oh, someone's suggesting g4. You've been playing too much Grob. Why not just start with g4 on the first move? Here, this is passive though, c3. It's too passive. I would accept like a3. No, I wouldn't accept a3 either. Okay, you're playing the Kraken. Black plays e5. Now, I think maybe you should consider moving your bishop again to b5 to really play like a Kraken and try to get black to give up the tension. Okay, but there's no reason you have to. Knight d7, we're playing the Caro, queen d6, and now b4. This is not really a move I love. And by the way, we don't try to castle every single game when we're playing white in the London system. Queenside, I mean. Mr. Coffee, lay down the law. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fan of b4. It looks risky. Black plays e4, bishop b5. That almost seems too late now, but we probably don't have a better square. And then b5 for black, I also don't approve of. And then he just like black just locks it up with a4. Well, can we just call it a draw or something at this point? I'm concerned that black can be better. We can't play f3. It's our only break. Only serious break. Now maybe we should like slowly maneuver our king over to like b2 or something. Yeah, g5 may be a bad move. Very committal. Now we see g4. Maybe not bad. This knight can come back to g3. Maybe h6 now? Sensible move for once. I think black should play h6. Black plays g4, and now knight f1. Knight f1 looks pretty decent. But I'm not really of the opinion that white is better here. Black will follow with the knight over here. It's a sort of sickeningly closed position where objectively the chances should be equal or just a draw. Too closed. This move is horrible. I mean, I think like takes, g4. Queen b1 is the worst move of this game. Realistically, there's no way I'm playing queen b1. Queen e2 attacks this pawn. It stays centralized. You can support f3. You can bring your king to the queen side where it's safe, and then open lines on the king side. This move literally makes no sense. You know, except for attacking e4. It's just a way worse version of queen e2. Queen e6. This is very passive now. And h6 is under attack. Black has line openers with like g3. Maybe we can get away with this. f3. So that doesn't work. Black should have played h6 in the first place. I told you guys that. Queen e6. And now bishop e2. You really need to play g3. And I mean like as soon as possible. Yesterday. Or knight f1. That's fine. That's better. Actually, knight f1. Rook a2. Here. Anyway, I gotta go in a few minutes, so we're gonna go through this. Black has chances to play g3 at some point. Queen d1. This is hopeless. Get your king on b2 now. Yesterday. Finally, knight f1. And now black trades it off. And now, can we still castle? Well, we have a new place for the king here ultimately, but the queen should have been on e2. White really needs to play g3. And then, if we can't do it any other way, we can play king f1, king g2. And try to survive somehow. This is passive. At least you got away. You lost the h-pawn. It's not the end of the world. It's not great, but you got the g-pawn back. Okay. So white ultimately is even better. So rook takes h6 was a mistake by black. Bishop h3. And now you're actually better. How much better? Not enough, it looks like. But f3 is a chance. Maybe bishop f5 drops a pawn. No. So black dropped b5, I guess, lost the game based on that. But objectively, it should probably be a draw. It was a sloppy game. White played very passively. It should be a draw. All right, last game. So this is Chess Riddler losing with black. But I'm sure we're going to see something interesting here. All right, last game for today, guys. I got to go. Thanks for your kind donations, especially Mr. Slow. Big donation today. $45, 5 gift subs. We had some gift subs from some others. Thank you, guys. Friday. Tomorrow is our next stream, and then Sunday. Friday, Blitz Challenges, Sunday, Simul. Okay, this is Chess Riddle. What was I looking at today? Not this. Okay, anyway. So the opponent played the Evans. And I have to say, I've never seen anyone play d5. Wow. That is new to me. So this is a thing. It's been known. Interesting. Interesting. Most recently was played in Nabati versus Christina Foysor, 2015. Sadly, she passed away. This very strong women's player from Romania, the mother of the woman who lives in the U.S. is strong master. I don't remember her first name, but some of my Romanian friends were quite sad about that. Anyway, d5. I didn't even know this was a move, honestly. So I guess it's probably dubious, or else I would have seen it before. But nevertheless, it's interesting. Sabina, yeah, that's the daughter. It's a chess family from Romania. E takes d5, and now knight takes b4. So the other possibility, it looks like, is bishop takes d5. And then black plays knight takes b4 anyway. So easy to remember your response. Now the other move that hasn't been played, it looks like, is pawn takes bishop. So obviously if pawn takes bishop, pawn takes bishop. And that's a weird position with opposite colored bishops. And black is slightly better, according to the computer, which is too mind-boggling for me to think about. But anyway, I want to win a pawn here. My preference is to take the pawn, but that's boring. That's well known. Chess Riddler, it's all Morphy theory out the window. Chess Riddler, I've never played this. Okay, so knight takes b4. Now, you might risk losing the initiative here with that knight on b4. Morphy theory out the window. Well, Morphy like moves maybe, but not the spirit of his play. The spirit of Morphy's play, we're playing dynamically for development, is still alive here. Development with pieces primarily. Knight takes e5. And this is a guy, Bruce Deason, which another thing I didn't know, that Mark Deason must have had a brother, apparently, who was a master strength player, playing the Swede Thomas Ernst in 1982. Mark died very young, about 12 years ago, and I was not aware that a lot of brothers have brothers who are masters and stuff. I didn't know he was a master. Knight f6. I'm just talking about people. Everybody's dying. What's going on here? Okay, knight f6, d4. Oh, this is neat. This is neat. Okay, bishop takes d4. Wow. Now that cannot be captured, Acerbate. There is a problem there. So, you know, obviously on queen takes d4, we're not looking for knight c6 here. That's nice, but it's not enough. We have to go with knight takes c2 check. So the question is, you know, c3, obviously. And now we're grabbing a piece. We just want a piece. I can always sack a rook. Damn, dude. So the only problem is that our knight is still sort of stranded out there on b4. So white plays check. He's figured this out. And he grabs his piece back. And that's cool, right? 3 pieces for both sides. 6 pawns for each side. White's structure is a little stretched out. Not a fan of it. He's created a lot of weaknesses. The bishop on c4 is blockaded, so blocked by the pawn, I mean. I don't like White's position. White's overextended and has weaknesses. And you can't castle. I mean, you could play a5, but then we have to contend with queen a3 anyway. So at the end of the day, it probably makes the most sense just to do what you did. Bishop d6, and now white does the unthinkable. Like, I'm never taking this pawn. I don't think I'm ever taking this pawn. That's just, you know, something you don't do when you're an experienced player. You know, even this move might attract the odd net-og type of tactic. I'm sorry, like queen b3. Maybe the best is for white to retreat the queen all the way back to b2. I don't know. Maybe that's the safest move. That way, like, if b5 happens, you can play bishop b3. I don't know. Something to think about anyway. I mean, you can play, like, okay, queen b3, b5, bishop takes b5. Because there's no pin, it's a tactic check. You know, it's a check. But, okay, I like black here. You're definitely better. How much better? I don't know. But queen takes b7 is borderline suicide. Now, we got the Greek gift on the king side. The pawn shuts everything out, right? There's no queen coming back. This bishop's dead. This check. Yeah, I would think you're just going to castle here, not check. Check may be good too. But the problem is, if you castle any castles, you don't have the Greek gift sack. Bishop takes, king takes, knight g4 check. You don't have this. Even king g3 probably holds. Because you don't have access to d6. Even obviously, you know, king g1, queen h4, bishop f4 defends. Even queen takes c7 defends. You know, although that might drop a piece back. I don't know. But this is not the point. Okay. You probably have a very strong attack here, maybe winning. I would think you're winning after maybe knight g4, right? This looks really strong. Knight g4 is, I mean, besides the fact that his queen may be trapped, you know, this is good enough. I don't need to see anything else. This has got to be like crushing for black. But, you know, this is interesting what you did because you check first. Maybe, you know, there's an off chance where you can try something crazy like king d1, but I mean, first of all, bishop e3. Second of all, king f1. My biggest fear here would be that, like, king f1 somehow White manages to hang on with king f1. But obviously bishop e3 makes sense because your rook is under attack with check. but it doesn't really secure him. You know, it ends up that maybe f1 was just a safe. Here, castling is just too dangerous, you know, for white. I think, objectively, his queen's in trouble, so that's like his first priority. The guy needs to, like, get his queen the hell out of there with, like, queen b2 or queen b3. What does the computer say? Yeah. But he's lost anyway. He's lost anyway. Yeah, knight g4 is crushing. So after castles, you don't need to try to trap his queen. Like, you're just winning here with knight g4. It's pretty obvious. Maybe he could try knight d2. Why is this not good? Because you can't literally trap his queen straight up, can you? Here, here, and oh, you have this. But then queen a5. Ah, you can't really trap his queen. It's not so easy. Bishop takes rook. No. Illegal. No, he's not castling. I'm trying to say, you know, maybe he shouldn't castle, but castles is brutal. Castles is brutal. You could kill him with knight g4. You played this, he plays this, and now I expected knight g4. And I think your move is good too. I think this would have been more devastating. You should have knight takes h2, I think. You probably have knight takes h2. But maybe not. Maybe not with the queen. The queen can help him defend. So, you know, objectively, you shouldn't do that. a5 is bad, it wastes time. You should go knight g4, and on g3, you can sack, he takes, you know, you check him on h4, and then you got to be mating him here. You got to be checkmating him somehow. A5 is like kind of make up your mind, you know. Maybe his queen helps. Can you finish him off? Queen e4? No. He has bishop f1. He's almost hanging on. That's not going to cut it. Oh, I see. He has the ideal lateral. Okay. He thought this can hold. Interesting. But he's getting family forked. Oh, yeah. If that's your only defense, you're in trouble. Nice. Nice. That's a great trap. I've never seen that. That's very neat. I like the opening. d5 is cool. Alright, guys, I gotta go. He's gonna need more rehab after that. I'll see you guys soon. See you Friday. Tomorrow morning. Blitz Chess, thanks Mr. Coffee, Nedog, for being here. Sunday Simul, Friday Blitz Challenges. Have a great weekend starting tomorrow. I'll be with you. Asturbate. Ciao. See you guys later. Have a good night.